Strike zero. Gauze used to be like any other circus clown before the incident. He loved making people laugh, especially kids. Man, the kids loved him so much whenever he was at his finest. He even had his red hair back then. Hell, it was curly as well. The kids would cheer for Gauze. He had all the kids and adults laughing. Until a new ringmaster came to the circus one day and took control over the circus tent and its troops. His name was C. Dimitri, or how Gauze and his troop know him as
The devil.
The day Dimitri took over, he took the whole circus's daily shows to a stop. All of the troopers were curious and kind of confused onto why the new ringmaster would put a stop to the shows. But as Gauze spoke up, it got his attention.
Why are you stopping the daily shows? We're used to it.
As Gauze said this, he then gave a reply.
Oh, I have something prepared for all of you, especially you, clown.
Dimitri pointed to Gauze and looked at him with a sharp glare and sharp smile. He then took the troop to a new and different place in the tent none of them have ever seen before. Gray padded walls with stains of what looks like dried blood. Individual cages lined it up against each other. Inside of each cage were chains attached to walls, and some of them having a heavy-weighted ball at the end of a chain. The walls of the cages looked worn, and once more, stained with both old and fresh blood. But to them, it was only a blur. As Dimitri gave the rest of the troop their small but useful
rooms,
he left a
special
one for Gauze. As he put each one of the troopers into the cages, he explained,
I'm doing this for your own good in order to stay safe. You'll only be here a few days.
As he spoke, his voice sends an echo through the cages and padded gray walls.
Right after I'm done with these experiments, I'll put the daily shows back to a working schedule.
He said this with an evil grin plastered on his face. It seemed eerie at first, but we all know better now that it's a devil's
smile.
He called the cells his
fun rooms.
As Dimitri led Gauze to his own cage, separate from the others, Gauze's cage had the same gray tiles and dried blood, but also had more fresh blood than any other cages. There was a chain on the wall that looked as if there were handcuffs, just not together. The cage had a view of all the other cages, but the other cages couldn't see the big cage or who was in it. There was also several main TVs showing what and who were in certain cages. The cage Gauze was in was the worst one because of the fact Gauze could see the experiments that Dimitri does to the other troopers. This cage was hell on earth. He also kept Gauze in the biggest cage so he could keep a close eye on Gauze, and to make sure he sees the cruel experiments and tortures towards the others. A few months, years, or weeks passed. Gauze watched and heard the screams of terror from his friends. He has also seen most of the other troopers die a slow and painful death by either starvation, dehydration, or blood loss. Dimitri didn't care for them, but the ones who had potential, he kept alive. The only ones that were left were Acapella, Alex, Solar, and Tilly. In Dimitri's mind, only they were the ones that had potential. It was because he had something prepared just for Gauze, and that he's
different from the others.
And different he turned into be.
Strike one. The first thing he ever did was obviously lock his wrists up in the handcuff type chains, that way they won't ever have a good chance to escape. Gauze was scared and prevailed and resisted, but to no avail. Dimitri then started to hit Gauze where it hurt, screaming and saying,
Smile!
Dimitri, as he sang this, punching Gauze's stomach hard.
Smile, damn it!
He kept punching and punching. One of his punches even made Gauze cough and spit out some of his blood.
You're a clown, right? So fucking smile!
Gauze forced himself to smile throughout the pain, even if it were unbearable. He was coughing up blood even through his forced smile.
Good.
He said, and then took a long look at Gauze's smile with a sinister grin plastered on his face, and said,
Sharper.
And with that, he punched Gauze straight in the nose, making it bleed, and knocking Gauze out, with a weak smile plastered on Gauze's bleeding face. As Gauze was sleeping, the things Dimitri did to him were unfathomable. Dimitri sharpened his teeth and added to them to make them razor sharp, cut out his tongue to the very back of his throat. There is now no possible way for Gauze to speak. But just in case, Dimitri took out Gauze's vocal cords and replaced the bone and vocals with a different bone, with the vocals replaced by laughter-type vocals. This took a long time to do. It actually almost killed Gauze on complete accident. But if he did die, he wouldn't have saved the other troops and would have killed them himself. But when the surgery was complete, he put the bone in the right spot so it could be surgically glued back over time. He stitched his neck back up, and before he waited for him to awake with smelling salts, he replaced the tips of his fingers, making them point and sort of sharp as well, all the while gluing his teeth together so his throat and tongue can heal properly. He then opened a pack of smelling salts, waited a bit. Gauze's now pointed fingers twitched, making Dimitri grin eerily and happily because he wasn't dead. He was still alive. When he finally awoke, Gauze felt different in a way no one can and would imagine. He tried calling out to Dimitri or even the troopers, but all that came out was laughter. He started to panic, but then Dimitri walked in from when he walked out to see the other troopers progress with their new adaptations.
Good. You're awake. You're probably wondering why you can't speak and feel wrong in ways you cannot imagine.
Gauze looked at him with a look of pure hatred.
Well, all I did was, sharpen your teeth, surgically glue them together, take out your vocal cords and the bones and exchange them for a laughing box, so to say. I also surgically sharpen your fingernails. This is the only beginning of your new clown.
Dimitri chuckled at Gauze's shocked face. He then let out a little, he said as he finished his sentence and took another good look at him and his new features.
I'll be back, clown. I need to research your troopers and learn your strength.
5 days later, Dimitri walked into Gauze's cages with his signature smile and glare and started to speak.
Hello, clown. You're probably starving, aren't you? Well, the only way you can eat is through your mouth, so.
Dimitri then pulls a very sharp scalpel out of his pocket.
Now, stay still, or I might make you bleed more than I intend to,
he said as he starts to trace his teeth to make them be able to open again.
Now, since that's done, I think you should take a tiny little nap again.
As Dimitri said this, he once again punched Gauze straight in the nose and knocked him out, once again making it bleed. Once Gauze was really knocked out, Dimitri got to work, making a device that looked like one of those devices dentists use to fix an overbite and or an underbite with tighter springs than a normal one, and the device having actual spring locks instead of just springs. And the springs holding the top and bottom together are more tighter than normal, so whenever Gauze opens his mouth, it would take some work to open it. When he closes his mouth, it would shut down on his now sharp teeth hard, making them feel a sharp tingly pain for whenever he closes his mouth because of this. Dimitri also added the spring locks so that if Gauze were to try to ever remove the device from the roof of his mouth, the spring locks would activate, breaking through his skull, going to his brain, and killing him instantly. Once he awoke, he didn't feel any different, until he tried to open his mouth once more. It worked? Took some work, though. Right as he set rest to his jaw being opened, it forcefully closed, making his teeth and gums pang with a tingly pain for whenever his now razor-sharp teeth panged together to make a painful tingly type sensation. He sensed he had some type of device in his mouth to make his jaw close so harshly. Gauze is trying to think of what kind of device could possibly do to his teeth and mouth and jaw. He tried to make sense of the situation, but before he can gather his thoughts and try to lift himself to feel the device, Dmitri walked in again, catching Gauze, lifting himself to feel the device, and spoke up quickly.
I wouldn't do that if I were you, clown. The device on your roof is similar to one of those jaw rearrangers dentists use for overbites. But I tightened the springs that had real spring locks. If you try and remove the device or touch it too hard, the spring locks will crack through your skull and kill you instantly.
Dmitri then started to laugh maniacally, a devilish smile plastered on his face. He was enjoying the suffering and pain. As he spoke again, the room shook with the grimness of his intentions.
Now you only have a few more things to be fixed. Then we'll be able to start with the real project.
He says as he put his hands behind his back, his signature pose as they call it, and walks out and exits the cell. A few weeks or months passed by, and now Gauze was way stronger now. He had brute strength, and parts of his forearms or muscles were elongated so that he were taller than the other troopers, and way more scarier. Being up to about 6-8 feet tall, and as he got the final readjustment, but after the last adjustment, he started to panic because Dmitri wasn't coming back to his cell. He didn't hear any screams or anything of the sort either. Was he gone? But he couldn't be. He'd seen his silhouette some days. And he started to think of what-ifs about the other troopers. He didn't want him or his friends to be trapped in these cells forever and for them to just suffer any longer. What's a way he could escape this hell? And how? Little warning, here's a little sewer slide ahead. If you are triggered by this, I would skip ahead. He got it. He knew a way. All he had to do was to choke himself with his neckband that was still around his throat. Or he can just kill himself to hunger, or somehow hang himself the right way. He got the back of the strand to the hook that was holding his chain, and started to giggle as his band wraps around his stitches tight, taking his breath away. And the more he chokes, and his coughs and breathless air gasps are replaced with pained laughter. This keeps going for 2 hours, and then he passes out. End of the suicide. You can come back now. A few minutes or hours or weeks pass by. A few minutes or hours or weeks passed by, and he wakes up. Was he free?
Ah, you're finally awake, clown.
A way too familiar voice speaks up as he perks his head up, and with anger and madness in his voice, he speaks once more.
I didn't want to do this early, clown, but it seems like I have to.
Then behind Dmitri comes out a little girl, her body frail and young. Gauze looked at Dmitri with a look of confusion and fear, then suddenly, gush! With a flick of the wrist, knife in hand, he skillfully and swiftly slit the kid's throat with practiced ease, dropping the girl's shoulder as she falls. Kid is in pain as she grips her throat, gasping for air. She's slowly choking on her own blood. Gauze watches in horror as Dmitri did this, and does nothing to help the girl. He tries to scream or plead to Dmitri to help her, to somehow fix her. But all that comes out are painful giggles and laughter from his sharpened teeth smile. As the scene continued, Dmitri wiped the blood from his face and with a handkerchief he had in his pocket and puts it back. The sound and the air were fueled with coughing and pleading laughter, but as quick as it started, it ended. No more coughing and gagging. The girl was motionless, her limbs now limp as the rest of her crimson red blood spills on the white tiled flooring as Dmitri speaks up.
I'd suggest you never do that again, clown, as that would lead to another one of your precious little audience members stirring to my grasp. And I'll enjoy every fucking second of their slow, painful, agonizing death.
As he finished this, he lets out a laugh and pulls out his other hand he had behind his back, and unfolded the hand. and in the palm of his gloved hand were pills. 5 to 7 different types of pills, all different heaps and colors and sizes. Gauze looked at Dimitri's hand with a confused look, but he didn't want to know. But he was going to know anyways. Dimitri lifted up his gloved hand, pills in hand, and said,
"Take them."
his voice demanding, then forcefully opening Gauze's jaw and forcing the pills inside his mouth, then saying,
"Swallow."
Gauze didn't want to, but for the greater good of him and his friends, he did.
"Good. Now this will be your last thing before we start with the real experiments, and just to help your mind adjust to your new self. Also, the effects are permanent. No getting rid of me, clown."
The pills must have worked fast because immediately he felt the effects. Gauze's vision immediately got blurry. He felt his eyes sort of dilate and his mind becoming weirder or wicked. It felt like the real him was just rotting away, as if his old self was left to rest in this cage he was chained to ages ago. But as he held himself to stay awake, he couldn't take it any longer, so he fell asleep. A few hours passed and he felt refreshed, or anew. Was it all a dream? Or did he... No. No, 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 no! It wasn't a dream! Fuck, fuck, fuck! But why did he feel this way? Why did he feel anew? Like nothing ever happened to him. Was it the pills? Why did Dimitri give him those anyway? Dimitri then entered his cell.
"Ah, you're alive. I'm glad. You were put for a few weeks or days. I thought my experiments went all to waste again. But looks like you've adjusted to the pill's effects well.
As he said this, he pulls out a key.
Look, clown, we're going to take a little field trip. Now, if you try anything funny, I will kill you and your freaks of friends you call troopers."
Strike 2. As I walked through the white-tiled halls, they passed by the other cells, passing the other troopers, but they were asleep. The sounds of shoes fueling the halls as they get closer towards the tent. Gauze noticed the colors and the way it was built. But why was Dimitri taking Gauze back? Why him? Out of all of the troopers, he picked Gauze to go back first. Whatever it was, and even if he knew what it was, he knew it wasn't going to be good. As they approached the tent, the lively, joyful sounds of cheers and children's laughter fueled the tent. Gauze lit up, knowing he'll be the first back to the regular shows again. This made him happy, but Dimitri then snapped his fingers and his eyes dilated. He started to see things and hear things, and instead of laughter or cheers, it was booze? Gauze felt envious. Then Dimitri spoke up.
"They're making fun of you, clown. They think your act is ridiculous and immature. You should teach them a lesson. Use this to teach those stupid kids a lesson."
Then Dimitri reached into his pocket, giving Gauze his gun. But what Gauze saw was multiple party poppers.
"Show them your true humor. Show them, let them learn."
Dimitri then pushes him onto the platform in the tent. Then Gauze shot a party popper. The booing kid was now cheering, and Gauze turned more joyous. So he shot more party poppers. There wasn't that many kids, and he had enough party poppers to make them all happy again. Now only one was left. He reached to pop it, but he got out of the trance. And once he was out of this trance, he heard the screams of the last kid left. He saw where the kid was and instantly knew what he was actually doing. The blood, the screaming, the sobs, everything. It's something he would never forget. But he had to act as if he was still in the trance. So he aimed the gun straight to the kid's head, and Gauze shot the kid. Strike 3. As Dimitri started to slowly clap and congratulate Gauze, he spoke up very quickly and for the final time.
Wow, you showed them, clown. Really gave them a show. Now follow me back to your cell. Where in the hell are your freaks of friends?
As he was talking to Gauze, he sneakily grabbed the knife from his back pocket, and as Dimitri turned around, Gauze's eyes dilated. He waved a bit, tauntingly, tilting his head and pulling out the knife above his shoulder and fully stabbing Dimitri's left shoulder, knocking Dimitri down. Gauze was laughing fully. He had Dimitri pinned, and he had nothing, not even a gun, because it wasn't loaded and had no bullets. And Gauze had his knife. But he stopped stalling. It was time to end this for good. Deserve death ahead. If you want to skip it, go ahead, but I would not. I would want to listen to this. It's so peak. Gauze started by taking the knife out of his left shoulder and slowly and painfully stabbing his other shoulder and dragging down to his chest, and doing the same for a rhythm of stabbing and pulling for everywhere on his body except for his face. And as he thought of what to do with his face, Dimitri gagged. Then he got an idea. He sliced a huge permanent smile on him and accidentally tossed his jaw and made it almost fall off because of the muscles keeping it together were almost all the way cut off. And for the final thing, he slit his throat slowly as Dimitri's blood pools around the floor where Gauze was pinning him down. Gauze stood up and was more joyous than ever. He felt relief as the other troopers cheered as well. And once Acapella started laughing for the first time ever since this incident was when they all knew very well it was finally over.